Good morning, everyone. It is Lazy Sunday. Yes, what's a lazy Sunday? Still got to go to the barn, still got to go feed and clean them out, and got some other things to do. It frosted again last night, but otherwise it's a lazy Sunday. Well, okay. It frosted again last night, though it's supposed to be really warm today, right, sis? And 60s or something, in the 60s. That's warm. That's nice and warm. Yes. Yard work. I said I wasn't going to do much. We had the most perfect day yesterday. Everything about the day was just perfect. Everything. We went to town and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. It was just a beautiful, sunny, completely cloudless day. Everything just went so wonderful. And I came across, when we got home, it's like, wow, this was just a day with God, an absolute wonderful day with God. And yes, we both felt that way. Then this morning I saw a video of three pastors, or one could call a couple theologians and a pastor, a reverend, they have this once a month Zoom meeting, and I got to see it this today from last month, and it was so inspiring. And one thing that stuck with me more than anything else, because we had this day yesterday, this one reverend, his name is Reverend T. Barrett, I think that's right, and he said, in order to feel God, you must think God. And it was like, oh, that was our day yesterday. Peace isn't just something that we want out there. I feel absolutely that being with God, having God in my life the way I do, gives you this inner peace. Then to solve things, to just be at a level in your spiritual life and physical life where everything's worth it. Even things that you're going, dear me, how am I going to deal with that? How do I do that? How to overcome that? It's different. Just everything's just different. It's good. Everything's just becomes good. If we also understand that we're on a path of restoration for mankind. Yes? Brings me to something else that I did come across yesterday that a bit saddened me, yet also gave me food for thought, and on how I've said this before, when you have God in your life, Jesus in your life, right? That kind of life, you live that kind of life, you obey the 10 Commandments, you love the Lord's Prayer and know what it actually stands for, it means, what it gives to us, how it guides us. Jesus' life, all that. Then, of course, for me, it's also through parents. The change of lineage, the blessing, to graft onto that olive tree, to God's lineage. Yes. On how important it is for us to not just be excited on a video like that, or when I'm with like-minded people in church, that this excitement and love for God, to feel God, to thank God all the time, it's got to be out there with everyone. Yes? To be bold, to have the audacity to be bold, to witness God. Which was another part that this guy mentioned as well, Reverend Barrett. Oh, I like him. And I came across this, we ended up in the middle of all our errands we ended up going, and because my sister-in-law drove us, in her car, I invited her to lunch. We went to Subway. No, you can still get some pretty good stuff there. At least I don't get sick from it. So and and there was this young girl right behind us, beautiful girl. I'd say she may have been in her late teens, early 20s, and she was just beautiful. She was a beautiful girl, and she was wearing this sweater, and it said "Life's for Jesus," and then her hat said also something, Jesus Christ or something on it. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I love your sweater. I said, this is so wonderful to see that on how you bring Jesus out into the community like that. You being, yes, the billboard kind of, yeah. And she's like, yeah, she says, though sometimes you get kind of degraded because of that. She says, I'm not getting these encouraging and how to say positive reactions like I'm getting from you. Oh my gosh, my heart just, I'm going, are you kidding me? And I wondered, on who. Then we talked a little more, just had this wonderful conversation, and I wondered, who are those people who are doing that to a young girl like that? Hmm? Who's taking Jesus? Obviously has Jesus in her life and takes Jesus with her wherever she goes. On her sweater, okay. It's a statement. It's a fact. and I wondered, is it her own generation, or is it people in my generation that are discouraging young people from what? Being guided by God, being guided by our brother Jesus. Anyway, that was probably the highlight of my visit to town. I just loved. Here is. Okay, we're probably a couple of generations removed, right? If I'm a first generation, she would be like the third generation. And to someone like me, to see that, it's so beautiful. When I go to town, I'm very exuberant. I probably to the a little bit embarrassment to the people that are with me. Yes, well, that's not my problem. That's theirs. But just saying. Right? And whenever possible, I engage. Yes. And of course, it always ends up what? In the talk of God bless you and why, what a wonderful day to be with God. This, yes, and I'm loud. I'm not. I don't whisper. I, I, I think even when I whisper, that's probably most people's normal voice. Okay, all right. So to be out there and meet again, a young person, yes, and then encourage them. Heck, don't just wear it on your sleeve or on your shirt or on your hat. Speak, witness, and be bold. Have the audacity to be out there and speak of the goodness of God, to be with God, feel God, think God. All right. Oh, correct. Just gave my sermon. What? Why do we need to read in here now? All right. Daniel. So excited. All right. We are in the second book of Kings in 20. All right. The illness and cure of Hezekiah. About then, Hezekiah fell ill and was at the point of death. The prophet Isaiah, son of Amos, came and said to him, the son of Amos. Amots. It's a Z at the end. Amots. Came and said to him, Yahweh says this, put your affairs in order, for you are going to die. You will not live. Oh, all right. Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and addressed this prayer to Yahweh. Ah, Yahweh, remember, I beg you, that I have behaved faithfully and with sincerity of heart in your presence, and done what you regard as right. And Hezekiah shed many tears. I say I had not left the middle court before the word of Yahweh came to him. Go back and say to Hezekiah, prince of my people, Yahweh, the God of your ancestor David says this, I have heard your prayer and seen your tears. I shall cure you. In 3 days' time you will go up to the temple of Yahweh. I shall add 15 years to your life. I shall save you and the city from the king of Assyria's clutches, and defend the city for my sake and my servant David's sake. I could say a whole lot to this, and it's like, I feel like I just repeat myself on when it comes to certain things that, did God say that? Would he do that? Is that another test or something? And then, okay, let's see if I say that on how Hezekiah is going to behave, or what's he going to do, right? Is he just going to, yeah, okay, all right, I guess I'm just going to die? Or is he going to plead for his life? And why? What for? And then if things come out right, then God changes his mind and says, all right. You've proven good. This. I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me on how it is written down. What then about people who truly have that kind of heart as well and die anyway? If a test supposedly given by God, or things that are happening due to consequences of our own, we created them our own, then anything like this should apply to everyone, every time. And if it doesn't, then there's something not right. And the reason I'm saying that, feel God, thank God, is because one thing we're all being taught, if you're a believer, God's unchanging. He's omnipotent and omniscient. Unchanging. That would also mean to me that we're all equal in his eyes. We're all created in his image. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yet here, again, we're being told that, or given the sense of, well, you've got to be a king or a queen or a prince. Preferably what? Prince Charming? And to gain the favor of God. I don't believe that. I do not believe that for a moment. So, well, in any case, he didn't die. Maybe a story just needed to be, looked like he was close to death. Well, okay, so he didn't die. So then, was that right away taken advantage of and saying, hey, we know people aren't happy with them kings, this and that. Sounds like there's starving going on. There's other things going on. The constant war and the suffering and the slaves and the servants they're made back into and all that. And so there is a need for what, a story? Between the king and God, not the king and the people and God. Yeah, see, And that's kind of always what bothers me, because I don't believe God's like that. God doesn't think that way. And to me, God does not feel that way. All right, just saying. But let's keep going. Bring a thick poultice, Isaiah said. They brought one, applied it to the ulcer, and the king recovered. Oh, all he had was an ulcer? All right, I don't know. Hezekiah said to Isaiah, what is the sign to tell me that Yahweh will cure me and that I shall be going up to the temple of Yahweh in 3 days' time? His healing, I would say. Again, as I said, why is he even asking that? Here, Isaiah replied, is the sign from Yahweh that he will do what he has said. Would you like the shadow to go forward 10 steps or to go back 10 steps? It is easy for the shadow to lengthen 10 steps, Hezekiah replied. No, I would rather the shadow went back 10 steps. The prophet Isaiah then called on Yahweh, who made the shadow cast by the declining sun on the steps. The steps to Ahaz's roof room go back 10 steps. By the declining sun. I'm going to try that out. I bet you I can make that happen too. If I stand in the right place. All right. I find it amazing on how people think that they can test God or tell God what to do. Okay? So how do I know? And I says, well, I'm going to tell God to make this happen. Okay? How does that work? I don't know. No idea. Why do people always feel they need to exalt themselves with things like that? I'm not getting that either. That girl yesterday was so humble in many ways. She's just, and I could tell how excited she was that here was someone, that just loved her being and what she presented and represented. And I told her, I said, once you get older like me, I said, you're not going to be bothered by people around you that are uncomfortable with your excitement for God or Jesus. You're not going to, because you're too secure in what you believe, what you stand for, and what you would like to give out there. So I said, just keep going. I said, it's going to get only better. I promise you that. Because I was where you are right now. All right. I got better things to tell than these guys here. All right. The Babylonian embassy. At that time, the king of Babylon, Merodach Baladan, son of Baladan, sent letters and a gift to Hezekiah, for he had heard of his illness and his recovery. Hezekiah was delighted at this and showed the ambassadors his entire treasury, the silver, gold, spices, precious oil, his armory too, and everything to be seen in his storehouses. There was nothing in his palace or in his whole domain that Hezekiah did not show them. The people, how the people lived, how they were doing. Amazing. Huh? Amazing on what Hezekiah was excited about to show this dude. Okay. All right. The prophet Isaiah then came to King Hezekiah and asked him, what have these men said, and where have they come from? Hezekiah answered, they have come from a distant country, from Babylon. Isaiah said, what have they seen in your palace? They have seen everything in my palace, Hezekiah answered. There is nothing in my storehouses that I have not shown them. Then Isaiah said to Hezekiah, listen to the word of Yahweh. The days are coming when everything in your palace, everything that your ancestors have amassed until now, will be carried off to Babylon. Not a thing will be left. Yahweh says, sons sprung from you, sons fathered by you, will be abducted to be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. Oh. Hezekiah said to Isaiah, this word of Yahweh that you announce is reassuring. For he was thinking, and why not, so long as there is peace and security during my lifetime. All right. Again, I could say a whole bunch to this. Hezekiah, even though, right, he was regarded as what? The best king? He changed some things, right? Yet, when it came to his own way of thinking, was he feeling God? Was he thinking God? I think Hezekiah was just thinking himself. It was about him. It wasn't, just during my lifetime. Well, he's not thinking about the descendants. He's okay if his son's being carried off, and yeah, well, what's going to happen to his lineage then? Well, if anybody knows what a eunuch is, all right, just say. Yes, that's odd. Sounds good. Oh, it's all right. I'll take it. Whatever Yahweh wants to do, right? Whatever's going to happen, as long as there's peace during my lifetime. It's not going to happen to him. What if Isaiah would have come and said, Yahweh says, well, you got another 15 years, you're cured, but you're going to be spending it as a eunuch in someone else's palace. You think he would have reacted in the same way? I was just wondering. The end of the reign of Hezekiah. The rest of the history of Hezekiah, all his prowess, how he constructed the pool and the conduit to bring water into the city. Oh, well, that would have been more interesting. Is this not recorded in the book of the Annals of the Kings of Judah? Then Hezekiah fell asleep with his ancestors. His son Manasseh succeeded him. Oh, he constructed the pool and the conduit to bring water into the city? Ooh, that's interesting. Well, see, we didn't get to hear about that. All right. Oh, the next one is 2 wicked kings. Well, what else is new here? All right, so I guess to the people who wrote all this down, the making of these stories, it's like, again, I'm getting two sides here. On one side, hey, look, God helped Hezekiah to heal, because Hezekiah really poured out his tears, this and that, for what exactly? Okay, and God, even though it was very self-centered, Hezekiah seems to be very self-centered in a way as well. God was right there. Any little whatever, right? God is so willing to receive. Yes. But then, again, okay, so you're showing off everything you have. Isaiah comes and says, you think that was a wise thing to do? Because it's all going to go someplace else. Because that seems to be a great reason at that time. Probably, yeah, it still is today. Is treasures of others to begin another war. Yes? Okay. Anywho. But he constructed a pool and a conduit to bring water into the city. Well, that profits him too, doesn't it? I wondered who actually had access to that water, if it was just for his palace. all right. Nevertheless, though, sounds like Hezekiah may have either had really amazing people around him who were inventors, yes, or maybe he was one. So was he meant to be king in his lifetime, or maybe someone that would have actually brought a lot of good things to all the people? Well, we don't know, do we? But we get little inklings about it. Which brings me to the last thing, because I got to go to the barn. How many people out there feel displaced, misplaced on where they are at? Yes? And why is that? I feel God In order to feel God, you must thank God. Yes. That's when you have God in your life like that. I shared the story about that phone calls and gosh, harassment. It's just harassment. And I had another one yesterday. Well, we were gone most of the day, so I don't know how many times it rang. I guess I could go and see how many missed calls, but I don't really do that either. And I picked up and I said, "Let's pray. Are you ready to pray with me?" And the voice comes on. Is this Daniela? I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "Let's pray first. Are you ready to pray with me? In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Are you ready to pray? Are you ready to pray first with me?" Dial tone. Again. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah. If you want to hear, for me to hear you, then you're going to have to let God come through first. And then after that, I will listen. Which brings me to, what did Jesus say? You can only get to the Father through me. Oh! Well taught. Okay. Well. Another great day. Is it always a perfect day? Just depends on what you consider not perfect. Yes? Okay. God's love and blessings always. May He protect you. And I will talk to you all another time.